analysis in my thesis is in the context of India's food security program, which is referred to as the public distribution system, right? So since India's independence, the public distribution system has been there, but there have been a lot of inefficiencies associated with the system, right, at all parts of the supply chain. But what is most relevant is that the downstream, that is the last part of the supply chain, where beneficiaries come and collect their grains, which is referred to as the ration shops, right? So that is where most of the corruption or diversion happens, right? So this is also referred to as leakages, where grains are diverted away to open markets and black markets, right? In fact, estimates suggest that only half of the grains which reaches the beneficiaries, half of the grains that go into the PDS actually reaches the beneficiaries. And it's also important to look at the cost angle, because almost 1% of the country's GDP spent on India's food security program. So this is what kind of motivated us to look at different problems. And then in 2013, after the National Food Security Act was passed, a lot of technological changes and modifications have been happening at all parts of the supply chain, right? Like, for instance, introduction of biometric authentication devices, and later on introduction of agent choice, etc. So we study these multiple interventions and look at their impact from different lens as part of the 3 projects in my thesis. So beneficiaries of India's food security program. So typically the way it is designed is that they are assigned a specific agent from whom they can collect their grains, right? So this is how it has been traditionally. And because of this monopoly of agents, it has resulted in a lot of inefficiencies in the food security program, despite the country spending a vast amount of resources in the program. Right? So recently many state governments what they have done is they have introduced this feature called portability, which is essentially a demand side choice, agent choice, right, in order to, at the last mile delivery, in order to take care of this inefficiency and corruption. So we answer a bunch of questions related to this intervention pertaining to this context. So in one policy piece, we use a simple logistic model and answer questions like, oh, what are the drivers of this agent choice? What are the groups of beneficiaries which use this feature of portability? And what distance are they going, maximum distance that the beneficiaries are traveling in order to uptake, in order to buy their grains, etc. Right? In another piece, what we do is we collect sub-district level data from 2 neighboring districts, right? Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Now in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, portability was introduced at different points in time. So we have this nice setting, an experimental setting. So we use the notion of treatment and control group and before and after. So we use the methodology of difference in differences, and we actually estimate the impact of introducing this intervention on uptake. So how has it increased, how has it resulted in increasing the uptake of people who were earlier not able to collect grains from the public distribution system or the food security program because of these monopoly and inefficiencies, who are now able to collect their grains. Right? So in another piece, we also look at, okay, this is a demand side intervention, right, this choice, agent choice, but if complementary supply side decisions, changes are not made, then we argue that it could result in perverse effects, right? So for instance, there is demand variability which could result in stockouts. So we actually find that we use a choice modeling approach, a choice modeling framework to find that, oh, if there is a utility, that certain utility that a beneficiary gets from buying from a certain agent, because of this supply side interventions which are not made in terms of replenishment policy decisions, in terms of inventory policy decisions. So there could be stockouts. So they are forced to go and buy from another shop which is not their most preferred shop, and this results in a loss of utility, right? So we show that it could have perverse effects if there are no complementary supply side decisions. So the Food and Agricultural Organization actually estimates that almost 40% of India's food is wasted across different parts of the supply chain. Right? So what I believe is that the availability of micro level data that today is possible because of storage, because of computing power, etc., and with the predictive analytics tools that we are coming up with, combined, I think they can help in terms of identifying what are the areas which need focus, in terms of focused interventions, and in terms of making the food supply chain more sustainable, right, and more efficient. We could think of multiple things and areas, right? So one is, for instance, in terms of predictive analytics of demand, right? So one could use this historical micro level demand and kind of predict demand and give it to retailers and suppliers, who could then use this information to make decisions about their inventory policies, about how much to stock, and this could in turn later reduce waste and reduce spoilage. Or we could also think in terms of transportation optimization, right? So because of this micro level data that is available, along with the traffic intensity and traffic data, real time traffic data that is available, we could use all of this along with the weather data and make decisions about the routes in terms of traffic optimization. So when I spoke about prediction and the ability of prediction, I was still only referring to the downstream part, right, where I said retailers and suppliers. But we could also think about in terms of farmers, right? So the kind of micro level weather data that is available today will actually help farmers make decisions in terms of when to sow, in terms of irrigation, how much to irrigate, in terms of when to harvest, right? Harvesting decisions, how much pesticides, how much fertilizers to use, etc. Right? All of this is made possible because of the availability of micro level weather data, temperature data. Right? And then we could also use these IoT and sensors which tell us the freshness of a product, right? So that could be used to tell retailers as to, oh, what is the freshness of this product, which are the products which need attention, which are kind of getting spoiled sooner. So then they could take dynamic pricing decisions, say in terms of bundling it together or giving it away at some discount by encouraging and incentivizing customers to buy those products which would instead be wasted away otherwise, right? So this is how I see the future of both, because of availability of micro level data and the power of computing, which can help make the food supply chains much more sustainable and efficient. So I am a relatively new member of both CTL and IIMA, right? So currently the research talks that CTL organizes has kind of helped think about my research agenda, and I'm sure it will shape my future research projects, right? So the plan is so this gives me access to researchers who are working in similar fields. So the future plan is to be able to collaborate with them and work on projects which are of similar interest. And also secondly, the practitioner and the industry talks that CTL organizes, I think that keeps us up to date in terms of the kind of work and the kind of questions that we are answering. Is it relevant to the industry? Is it current, etc. Right? So that is another thing, another way where it kind of helps us.